Hi everyone, this is Tanya with Flying Dog Studio. Thank you so much for joining me as we continue with Cicely Mary Barker's Sycamore Fairy. Let's take a look at the supplies I have. As usual, I have a microfiber cloth. I have two brushes. Right now I have two brushes. I'm going to add another one, but this is the size 6 round from Winsor Newton, their Cotman series, and this is a size 8 round from Royal and Langnickel, and that is from their Zen series. I have 1 cup of water, and then I have my Winsor and Newton pan paints, and I'll list all of these supplies down below. And as you can see, I have the colors from the previous video on there already mixed up, and these are the colors. Here's a freeze frame for you. You can screenshot that if you'll want to. I'm not going to go back over which one is which on this. If you haven't watched part 1, go ahead and watch part 1 so you'll know what I'm doing on here. I also have the cadmium-free yellow and the cadmium-free red in the lower right-hand corner of that palette. So we are going to start with getting the details. And since I'm right-handed, I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner and kind of bring things downward. I'm looking back and forth at my reference to see how she has added the color on here. And some of you have said to me, "Oh, I love this color combination. I wish I could take credit for it, but I'm looking at Miss Barker's work. These are the colors that she used. I'm trying to get as close as possible to her colors, so bear with me on that." We are going to start by detailing these leaves, as I said, in the upper left-hand corner. And she does the detailing a little bit differently for each leaf. Now the first one, you notice I painted in the veins. This one, in order to get the veins, because we're looking at, I am guessing, the underside of the leaf, she is leaving some spaces here and there to indicate where the veins are in the leaves. The technique I'm using right now is the one that we used for Beatrix Potter, if you've watched that series. If you haven't, again, I'll link all of this down below so you can take a look at that. But we have our base color, which was a very light green, and then I'm leaving some of that free so that we can get that look of the veins in there. And then with dry paper, I'm dropping in the very wet paint. Now this is my size 6 round, so it's not holding as much paint as my size 8, but I'm making sure I have quite a bit of water on there. You see I have to touch my brush over to the left-hand side, and that's to get some of the water off. And then if I want to thin it out, because that was a little bit too yellow, then I'm going to touch the water and come back and thin that out. But this is what Beatrix Potter did, and it looks as if Miss Barker did the same thing on her pieces. So they are dropping in this color wet, and then they're coming back and adding another color on top of it, and that kind of blends them all together. So I'm not putting a huge, and I know it looks like a lot of green shades over there in my palette, but I'm not having to put as many as what I would need if I didn't use this technique. By having this base of greens, I have some that are a little more blue, some that are a little more yellow, some that are kind of in the middle, some that have a little bit of a brown to them. I can come back and forth and drop those in. I can also use that cadmium-free yellow and that cadmium-free red to add on top while they're wet as well, and that will change the type of green that we have. So as I'm going along and I'm looking at my reference photo, if it looks as if, oh, I always hate when I have drops of water, sorry about that. If it looks as if I have an area that's a little more blue-green, well then I can just tap another color on top and adjust that. So that works really well. And since that bottom blue-green has a lot of that Winsor blue in it, then I don't really have to have a blue that I'm tapping on. I just go ahead and use that blue-green at the bottom. So I'm going to keep on doing that same process through here. And so I'm going to hop off in just a second, but you can see how she's showing where all the veins are by the techniques that she's using. And she's going to change as we get to some of the leaves down at the bottom. Now, I did want to tell you, and I really don't try to lie on these things. And my daughter said, you know, you never need to say that you're going to do it one way, because just as certain as you do, something's going to change and you're not going to be able to do it that way. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I really hate it that I can't get everything into this video because I said I wanted to get this finished up in this video. But you know, there are a lot of elements here. We did the background in our first video. And then in the second video, we did some underpainting so we could get some good base layers for putting these details down for this video. So in this video, the only thing I'm going to show you, if you looked at the title, we are just doing the foliage details. So I'm not going to be concerned about him in this video. I'm not going to worry about his clothing or his hair or his skin or even his wings. We're going to leave that for another time. So in this video, the only thing we are going to do is we are going to paint the details on these leaves that are kind of in the foreground. Some are in the foreground, some are kind of in the middle ground, but you can tell by the way she changes her technique where all of these leaves are positioned. So I'm going to be quiet for now. We're going to hop back on in just a few minutes and we're going to talk a bit more. This is an area where the color dropping that I mentioned earlier comes in very handy because this portion of the stem coming down, holding all of the little helicopters on the end, has kind of a brown tint at the top. It's kind of green, it's kind of brown. So I started with that cadmium-free red and dropped that in and came back and just dropped the greens on top of it. And it works beautifully for getting the browns. So I don't have to keep mixing those colors over in my palette. You can mix them right on the paper as long as you're doing it while it's wet. Now it kind of works when you do it when it's dry. Like if I want to put a red down and let it dry and put a green on top, but you're going to need to make sure that those layers are pretty light because watercolor is transparent, but it's just easier as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion. IMO, as the kids say, in my opinion. I think it's easier if you just go ahead and mix everything while it's wet. So that's what you're going to see me doing in all of these areas. But I wanted to point that out because it worked really well. I didn't have to go get a brown, figure out what brown I needed. I just put the red down, put the green on top. we are now working on that lovely large leaf right in the front. And this was like one of the focal points. There are several focal points in this piece, as far as I'm concerned, that she used a different technique to kind of point them out. Now, this is very similar to that small leaf that's tucked up under the one at the upper left-hand corner that I said, we're probably looking at the back of that leaf. She is using a couple of techniques. So some of the veins she is painting in as she did that large leaf in the upper left-hand, but most of it is what I like to call leaving space. We have that nice light green underneath, and you can see I'm kind of building up to it. I'm adding in some colors to do a few little vein areas, and then we're going to paint up to those areas and then leave some space. So that's going to give us all of that vein effect without actually having to draw them in. So I didn't draw them in. I don't want the lines on there. I want it to be strictly the watercolor. And again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's fine for pencil lines to show on watercolor. You can see in my background and you can see on hers, the leaves that are in the background, you can still see my pencil lines. I did not ink those in. I didn't want to put pencil lines on these. I felt as if I wanted to simply paint those in, and that way they don't look too harsh on the edges, and you'll see me coming back and softening some of these edges as well. So when I put it down, if it's a little too dark, you'll see me hit the water, hit my microfiber cloth, and then come back and soften some of the edges. But I wanted to point it out because this is the leaf that uses a combination of techniques in order to make it a little more visible than the other leaves that we see that are behind his head, the ones that we started with. This is coming forward, so she uses a few more techniques to get a few more details without actually drawing those in. Now that my larger leaves are almost completely finished, I have a huge surprise for you. You're going to be shocked that I actually did this, but I actually remembered to order a size 3 round. This matches, and you can see that's the size 6 round, and this is a Winsor Newton brush. It's from the same Cotman series. If I can get this out, I will show you. This is the travel brush that came with that pan, and I got off the screen a little bit, but I swear to you, see, there they are. They look like they're the same size to me. So that I kept saying, I think that might be a size 2 round. I debated. I ordered them online. They didn't have them at our local store. So I thought, I'm going to order it. I'm going to hope that it's a size 3. And it was. It's a size 3 round. So I switched over to a size 3. And you're going to see me going back and forth. I'll go from the size 3 to the size 6, depending on the size of these little helicopters that I'm painting. Some of the stems are very tiny, so I'll be going back and forth, and I think you can tell by looking at the tip of it whether it's the larger brush or the smaller brush, because the size 3 not only is smaller in diameter, but the brush length is a little bit longer, and I needed that in this area, and so I'm glad I got that. I also am going to be using it on a future video for his face, and it worked beautifully for that. But same technique on this. We do have some shadows, and I had some green. I put down kind of a medium green as far as the blues and the yellows go. It's kind of in the middle. And then I want to put down some blue-green on that because it had a little bit more of a blue-green. I'm using the same technique that I did when I put these colors on to begin with. And in that video, if you remember me saying we were putting these base colors down, if you've watched it, I don't want to get stuff too dark too quickly. You can always add to it, but it's kind of hard to take it off, and you're going to see me try to do that in just a few minutes, because these little seed pods, the part that has the seed in it, it has a little bit of a highlight on there, and I get a little too color happy and kind of fill it in a little too much. I have too much water on my brush. I'm not paying attention because I'm looking back and forth, and I let my brush hit, and this is one of those areas that I do that. And then I decide, oh, I'll just put a little yellow in here and that will be fine, and then it kind of blends everything together. So you're going to see me try to get some of that off. I believe I left that in. I hope I left that in. I have to edit in order to make the videos a little bit shorter, so we'll see if it's still there. And if you have been watching my videos, thank you so much for coming and hopping on and seeing what I'm up to with these. I do appreciate you following along. Let me know in the comments if you've tried these out, and let me know how it's going for you. I would love to know. And if you are new to the channel, I'm so happy you're here. We like to make this a community where we learn together. So if you have any questions, put those down below, and I'll remind you again when we get to the end of the video, put those down below. And if you have any comments, if you think there's something I could do to make it better, let me know that too. I want us to be a community that kind of helps each other out. Okay, those are the seed pods. Too much paint right there where the little seeds are, and I need that highlight back. And I have to be careful because my paper is still wet, and I'm using a cotton swab that's wet on one end and dry on the other, and I did cut a little bit of that out because I thought, you know, I'm going to damage the paper, so I'm just going to leave it. I thought about using my scrubber brush, but it all works out in the end. I just keep adding color around, so it wasn't too dark after all. But the one I'm working on right now, where the seed is at the top, I do wish that had been just a little bit lighter, but it's okay. It's fine. So we're going to keep going. We're going to keep adding color and putting some detail on here, and I'll hop back on in just a second. This area of shadow got a little tricky for me, and I needed the green that I was using, but I needed it to be a bit darker, and I'm not going to achieve that by adding any more greens or any more browns. I'm going to achieve that by adding black. So normally I take the light color and add the dark color into it, but I didn't want that entire color to be that dark shadow because I'm going to use it for some other stuff. So I put some ivory black down, and then I added some of the green over to it, and as you can see, by doing that I got the shade that I needed, and I can keep that shade, and once this area dries, if I wanted a little darker, I just add this same color right back on top, and that will layer it up and make it the shade that I need. And this is what I was talking about. That has dried now. And I'm going back to that same little pile of paint and I'm putting some more back on top. One key difference is that you'll notice it's a little bit more dry. That means the paint is thicker and that allows me to get an even darker shade. And I needed that at the top because behind those upper seed pods where that comes around, there was a shadow being cast, and it got lighter as it went down. So I really needed that to get darker so that I could create those darker shadows at the top. I don't think I've said it enough in this video, but this a size 3 round really saved me in areas like this. And you'll see if you watch the upcoming videos how much it saves me in a lot of other areas. I could have done this with the size 6 round, but having the size 3 made it so much easier. I have always been a person that's an advocate of using as few brushes as possible to achieve your end results. However, I'm starting to mellow, and I realize if I have a smaller brush for a smaller area, it stresses me out a lot less and I make fewer mistakes. So if you need the smaller brush, get the smaller brush. So if you have followed me to the end of this video, thank you so much. I appreciate your being here. I do have a couple more in this series, and I hope that you will join me for those. But until then, my friends, I will see you in the next one.